Hello everyone, my name is Loco and welcome to a best of 5 grand finals of the Awardee TV Monday. Spotting right here in the top left hand corner, playing with the blue Protoss pieces, we have none other than Maxpax. His opponent down in the bottom right, joined by the little polar bear once again. I'm very glad that it's made its return. With the red SCVs, of course, we have none other than Clem. Now Clem playing Terran for now. We don't know how long it's gonna last, because lately Clem has been playing an awful lot of Protoss, not just against other Terran players, but also against Protoss players across the board. It's an interesting thing. I don't really know, though, if he can really compete against Maxpax in PvP. I mean, he did win a few games with Protoss against Maxpax, but there's no denying that Maxpax is an absolute Protoss versus Protoss monster. Now, the first game in this particular series is taking place on a map called Tato Citadel. Now, I've been casting a lot of the games of the new balance patch, or on the new balance patch, on all of the new maps as well. I don't remember ever casting a game on Tato Citadel. At least the name does not ring a bell. Let's have a quick little look around, because there certainly is a chance that I have not covered a match on this one just yet. We have a gold base over here in the far bottom left. Top right hand corner does not have a golden expansion. There is a watchtower over here, smack dead in the middle. A lot of line of sight blockers over here, so if your units are right over there, they're going to be practically invisible. We have some of the Sims logos right over here. These things always remind me of Sims logos. I don't really know exactly if that's what they are, but there is something beautiful up on this high ground. It almost looks like a healing shrine, but I don't think it is. Anyhow, Maxi, what are we doing? No. We're serious about it. Yeah, we are. We're gonna proxy what I guess is going to be a pylon? Only time will tell, but a pylon is already building here, and I guess a gateway will be added into the mix in just a moment. Bunker here. I mean, it should be a gateway. Bunker here coming up as well on the low ground, though, for Clem, who's been starting off, well, entirely scoutless so far. We do have a Marine added into the mix, too. Clem did scout all the way up here, but he is not going to be able to find out, indeed, about this proxy gateway on the other side of the map. I haven't really seen Maxpax play too much on the new patch just yet. In my mind, he's not the most creative player out there, but extremely good when he has a little bit of a chance to work on his strategies. Looks like the Adept is going to go not die? Really? How in the world? The Marines just hesitated for a split second, and it allows that first Adept to actually escape. Considering the proxy gateway, though, that's a really big deal. Starport on the back of this as well, though, for Clem. What he really needs is, for example, a Cyclone. That makes the defense way better. At this point, though, he doesn't really know about any of it just yet, right? Even a siege tank would be incredibly nice to get, but Clem is going to opt for the good old, well, Widow Mines instead. There's a good chance that this guy, or this gal, is going to sacrifice herself to the Widow Mine. Already, though, more Adepts are being warped in. There is a Twilight Council on the back of this as well. Looks like already, though, the Terran units have managed to bust through some of the Adepts at the very start. And that is going to be a -2 for the time being. Blink on the back of this right now for Max. Adept shade around. They would love to get into the main base, but not going to happen. Bunker currently really out of reach. Yeah, and as long as we shade past this, Stalker does get killed right here to the Widow Mine. Not the best bit of aggression right here from Maxpax. Yeah, he's trying his best, but none of those engagements have really gone according to plan. Usually, you really pile on the pressure. Usually, you really just let this sort of thing steamroll to an advantage. Now, still, the bunker can be bypassed right now by those Stalkers, and some more of the SCVs will die. Cyclone, though, is going to be popping out here in just a moment. Now, this could still hurt. Those Stalkers here are being incredibly annoying. Marines decide to pop out of the bunker yet again. There's that lock-on available. There is also a medevac. Widowmine fires the second time around. It was repositioned. Man, an absolute bloodbath at the beginning of this game. Stalkers here trying to look out for their friends. Blink is just seconds away from being done right now, so Maxpax really wants to keep these units around and, well, keep the Terran units out of the main bases as, well, long as possible. Blink right now, though, nearly done. Widowmine, yet again, is available. Do we have any form of high ground vision at all? No. There is no hallucination available. There is no war prism or anything along those lines. Blink. Yep. And I think this game is going to settle into a bit of a macro match. Neither player really falling too far behind just yet. Maxpax agreeing with this too. He's decided to go for the good old third base. A little bit later than you ordinarily would, but you know what? He's already transitioning towards Clem's most hated ability in the entire game. He is gonna be getting that storm here in just a moment. Clem, in case you haven't been watching literally every single match lately. I know, very surprising. Clem seems to be tilting quite a lot lately. The new storm really has been troubling. Pylon is going to get shut down, though, and the gateway will be following shortly after. We do have to start up the research for it. Alternatively, you can use this just for Archons. No Stalker's thinking about going around. There is a siege tank that just rolled fresh out of the factory. Yeah, are we going to blink straight into the main? Sure. It's messy, it's dirty. Nice little bit of control here, though, across the board by the Danish Protoss. Blink is going to be available again in about a second, but so many dead Stalkers, too. All right. Now, as the dust is properly settled, could we call this a Protoss advantage? See, the problem is, normally, right, in days gone by, when you lose all of your units, Terran would go across the map and then absolutely murder you. Stimpec is pretty soon to finish up, and this Terran army is not to be underestimated, but now we're gonna get that good old Size Storm out nice and quickly. Protoss players really have been refining it. Keep in mind that Max isn't even getting this one particularly fast. Probably could use a chrono booster or two. There we go. It's gonna be done here in just a moment. Energy recharge allows him to get enough energy as well on those Templar to actually cast the ability a few times, and upon seeing the Templar, Clem immediately turns back around. So even though I don't really love the early game pressure here from Maxpax very much, I think it's still good enough for him because he has, well, got that tech advantage, he's got the eco advantage, he's got the prism already out to be a nuisance. And Clem, who really is not enjoying Size Storm very much, has decided to just sort of awkwardly drive around in the middle of the map, losing a lot of time. Third command center is done right now. Prism is going to be inside of the main base, though. Maxpax even brave enough with a far smaller army to maneuver out onto the battlefield for a little bit. I really like the positioning of this watchtower, by the way. Ooh, Storm. Could be good. Could be a juicy one. Not quite. Looks like the Vikings have managed to take care of that warp prism. Recall, though, is going to bring most of those zealots all the way back home. All right, now quick rundown. What did they change about Storm? Well, first off, it's an ability now that deals less damage per second, but it lasts a little bit longer, and the area is slightly larger. Meaning that if you stand in the full duration as a Terran player with your units, you're gonna take more damage than you would have in the previous version of StarCraft 2. But technically you can micro out of it a little bit easier, and then obviously since it deals less damage per second, if you're quickly enough, if you're doing it fast enough, then, well, you should be taking less damage overall. Terran players are convinced it's a massive buff. Seems like half the Protoss players are convinced that it's a massive nerf. Seems like the jury is not yet entirely out. But it is very clear that across the board, it is just a different ability to play against. And it's going to throw a lot of the timings, right? For a bit of a loop there. It's difficult to now, when you're so used to playing against that ability for the last decade and a half or so, when you're now facing off against it, sometimes we see the Protoss players even like accidentally walking into the ability themselves because they assumed that it would already be dying down soon. It's a little different now than it ever has been, and, well, Clem, at the very least, is not liking it very much. decides to play this quite passively. And this is one of the great frustrations, of course, of Terran, right? So Maxpax throws away all of these units in the early game, doesn't really deal a ton of damage with the attack, and then you still can't properly punish it. Like, we're already up to 4 base economy here for Protoss, and Clem really hasn't been able to do anything about it. And I understand that frustration. I wonder, though, if maybe he could have done something about it. Those Stalkers coming online with Blink so early on is obviously also pretty tough. You just kind of turn into a bit of a punching bag, and across the board, Protoss just has so many fun tools to play around with right now. The least of which probably is that recall on the Zealots that we saw, but that's another great frustration for many players, where Maxpax warped in a big round of Zealots in the main base, and he's like, whoopsie daisies, there's units here. I guess I'll just recall them back home. There's a lot of variety and a lot of options available for Protoss. Whereas both Zerg as well as Terrans, to maybe a slightly lesser extent than Zergs, but they're all feeling like they are pushed into a corner a little bit. Well, let's see. Here comes Maxpax. Next tool of the trade is going to be the Robo facility with the Robo Bay. It's a little bit messy over here, but okay, extended thermal lens now done. Storms are obviously already done for a while, and look, this is brand new. You couldn't really do this reliably. SCV is going to repair at the edge of the... Okay, I quite like that. You previously were never really in a good spot to be storming siege tanks, but stationary targets, honestly, not a bad... not a bad shot! 15 SCVs died just like that. In the meantime, there's also a push over here on the right side of the map. Looks like another storm may have been putting in a little bit of work. Clem is going to attempt to get the 4th command center going yet again. And in the meantime, Maxpax is already securing a 5th. Honestly, if you're like thinking about giving StarCraft 2 a try right now, I will say, I get this question all the time, right? What race do you think I should play? I will say that I think at the moment, whenever people ask me, I always say Protoss, man. This just seems to be the most fun race to play. If you've never played StarCraft before, you have so many options and none of them are bad. Some of them are better than others, sure, but you can't really make a bad choice. Vikings, though, are of course also buffed in the most recent balance patch. And those Colossi are certainly not having a good time here at all. Planetary Fortress looks like it's going to finish up as well. My god. Way overextended right here is Max. Another big storm, though. Planetary Fortress stays alive. I'm not sure why Maxpax decided to throw away that many units, but the thing is, he has now gone, right, from that mass Blink Stalker opener into a very fast storm upgrade. Then he's gone into the Robo play, and now he's at 89 workers. He can start playing the Mass Gateway, Mass Robo style as well. This is Maxpax weaving all of the popular Protoss strategies together into one giant build. We used to see Protosses make a choice between any of those strategies, but Maxpax has figured out a way to incorporate all of them into one single game so far. And honestly, with 90 workers, you can throw away whatever you like, because it's so easy to rebuild with that much economy. Dark Shrine on the back it is as well. Another Thorn, of course, and Terran's side. Oh, they have been buffed up a little bit. Clem has been a complete punching bag this entire game long, right? It's actually kind of incredible. Maxpax really had a suboptimal start to this game, but he is still just absolutely owning the previous world champion of StarCraft 2, and he's doing so in a spectacular way. Look, I tried to not talk about balance all too much, or at the very least give you my opinion all too frequently on balance. But this is the type of game that I'm looking at, and then... yeah, I think Maxpax has been a little bit overly aggressive, but there's just not really any punishment that Clem can do to try and slow this all down. He just threw away a massive amount of units, but now he's got a better economy than your average Zerg. He's gonna go up to like triple digits worth of probes. 96 workers. He is just going to be able to make so many troops from here. And this is the type of stuff that I look at and I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe. Maybe it's time for another one of those YouTube titles that says Protoss is overpowered. And I'm tired of pretending it isn't. Because this is one of those games where I am getting that vibe, yes. Maxpax is just looking like an absolute Chad this game. It's like he can't do anything wrong. Obviously, all of this is on the back of some phenomenal macro. Very sharp decision making. It's not really to take anything away from Maxpax. But I understand the Terrans out there that look at this game and they realize, yeah, what do you even do? I think what we are watching right now is a very slow death animation from Clem. Margin for error for Terran is very, very small. Whereas for the Protoss, it seems like you can do a whole lot wrong and still be totally fine. Look at him rallying in more units like they're Zerglings. 12 additional SCVs go down. We have a bunch of units running themselves at the planetary fortress. The orbital command is going down. All these Protoss units are hitting something else. Storm right there on a bunch of medeffects. GG gets cold, but my god, Maxpax absolutely dominates game number 1. And that takes us to Magnetic North. Game number 2 in this best of 5 finals. Maxpax dominates game number 1. It's the history of StarCraft 2 as well in a nutshell. Like, whenever a race underperforms over a longer period of time, at some point, there's going to be an overcorrection. We have seen this dozens of times. Early on, Zerg in Wings of Liberty really didn't do well, but by the end of Wings of Liberty, Zerg was utterly overpowered, and Broodlord Infestor was pretty much unbeatable. Protoss, before the current state of StarCraft 2, didn't win events for a very long time. They didn't win a premier tournament in ages. And then they proceeded to win everything for a little while. We're still, and this is something that you always have, right, in an asymmetrical game, a game that is balanced in the way that StarCraft 2 is. It's such a complex one. It's always difficult, like how much do the balance changes really affect the game? How much do the map changes really affect the game? How much is it just a raw skill of the players? I think we can all say that, for example, Clem's raw skill has been proven over the years. I think we can say the same thing as well for Serral. Both of those players have been dominating for such a long time, and you really can't make much of it. Like, you can't say Serral's bad at the game, right? Or that he is like a... Nobody's gonna say Serral is a patch Zerg. That's a ridiculous statement. So, yeah, maybe we're now in an era where Protoss is a little bit overtuned. It could also be that the opponents just need to figure it out. That's also happened many times before, where, like, for a while, it kind of seems that Race A is overpowered and that Race B doesn't have an answer. But then somebody from Race B figures out a perfect build order, and suddenly Race A doesn't look so good after all. We're mixing it up, though, right over here on Magnetic North, with a far more aggressive Terran opener. Little Adept just being a nuisance. The main question is, where is that siege tank going to be setting itself up? These maps, of course, are very new. Immortal is coming up already. Double pylon to power this. Double pylon to find them all. Double pylon to bind them all and in the darkness make immortals? I don't know. Something along those lines. Either way, the fact that Immortal is going to be coming out in a moment is nice, but it's not going to be enough. Aggressive blink forward for the time being. Siege tank goes down. The question is, though, at what cost? And now suddenly, right, this is an awful lot of losses on the Protoss side. Terran's economy is more than competitive against this sort of thing, and while the Immortal does spawn right now, I don't think we can call this a bad start here for the Terran player. He's still hunting for some freebies. Nice little bit of pickup control, of course, here from Clem. I love the reinforcing siege tank as well. Pretty far away, anticipating the movement. Maxpax blinking around with the Stalker here to try and see if maybe the siege tank has already been sieged up yet again. Face checking with it. Because it hasn't been. Yeah, he decides to test the waters with the Immortal Stalker Bowl. Second Immortal is going to be out in just a moment. Maxpax decides to fight this outside of the natural, but I think he should probably make use of the high ground over here, man. Yeah, make sure that the Immortals at the very least are on the high ground with the safety of the shield battery. But this, for example, is an excellent example of a build that may just be what Terran needs, right? We haven't seen Terran players play this build very much. It's not an easy one whatsoever to execute. But you can see that in this instance, Maxpax is not able to go into really quick storm. He certainly can't afford the Templar Archives here and the research and all the rest of it. Energy recharge, of course, has been nerfed a little bit. Aggressive blink over here, though. The Immortals go around the side in the Prism. Excellent move here by Maxpax. Manages to snatch both of those siege tank kills just at the correct time. Stalkers, of course, have blink, so they can just chase down the Liberator. And that was absolute textbook right there from the Protoss. Fires up a third Nexus on the back of this already. He's going to hunt down whatever Terran unit is still out on the battlefield. Lovely, lovely bit of defense right here from Max. Yeah, and talking about raw skill, right? It's one of those things where I feel like that's something that's always going to be working against Maxpax, since he doesn't play offline tournaments. I don't think anybody is ever going to be talking about him as they do about Clem or as they do about Serral. Winning online cups is a little bit different than winning the World Cup. Anyways, Prism does go down right now. Aggressive blink forward, but there's already triple Immortal available. And even though Clem's aggression just a few minutes ago was looking like it was near game ending, Maxpax strikes back. Scouts the main base right now with a Stalker, wants to see roughly what's going on. The Immortals have to return. And in the meantime, we've got ourselves the good old Psystorm coming up yet again. Okay. Now, I do think it's fair to say, by the way, that Maxpax, as far as just like a raw skill goes, is one of the very best, if not the very best Protoss in the world. I would have loved to see a grand finals between Maxpax and Serral, for example, at the EWC. Do you think Maxpax would have had a better shot in the grand finals against Serral than Classic? I think so, personally. Even though Classic was playing really well, the style that Classic decided to bring with that very passive Skytles approach, not really too much else. Maybe some Adept openers and all the rest of it, but it was very clear that Serral had it figured out ever since the very first round of the tournament. Serral knew how to counter Skytles, and yeah, that was what Classic practiced, so he decided to do it again in the grand finals too. But I think Maxpax would have been more flexible and actually transitioned to something else. I think Hero would have had a better shot in the grand finals too, honestly, against Serral, bringing some of that craziness, although he already brought plenty of that earlier on in the tournament and kind of, well, played himself into a corner a few times with those weird build orders, the Proxy Tempest and all the rest of it. Anyway, this is always something that's a little bit unfortunate about Max. Such a monster, such a beast, but just never really proving himself at an offline stage. Well, 4th Nexus right now coming up. Ooh, the Storms are here as well. Dancing in the Storm for a little bit with those shield units. Obviously, the shields will regenerate on those Stalkers there, so they can stand in it for just a moment. Prism is gonna fall. Only a few Medivacs, by the way. Yeah, those Storms are really painful. Those Medivacs are gonna only be able to heal one unit at a time, and they don't have infinite amounts of energy. This is something Maxpax can fight. I think the Immortals could retarget over here. Easy peasy, yeah. Sometimes you look at the engagement and you're like, oh my god, that's a huge Terran army, but then you look at the HP of them. Not nearly as impressive. There's been a lot of debate, right? Why Maxpax doesn't play offline tournaments. Ultimately, it's his choice. If he doesn't want to, he doesn't want to. Some people think he's Danish royalty, because there is a prince in Denmark that is right around the right age. Some people think he's an artificial intelligence, which he definitely isn't. Some people think he, I don't know, has some sort of anxiety where he just doesn't feel comfortable with that sort of thing, which is completely fair. Some people think that, well, for example, he's too young. That's another argument that I've heard several times. That, like, when he first started competing, he was too young and he kind of lied about it. Because there was an issue with his Twitch account some years ago where I think Twitch kind of, like, got rid of it. I'm not exactly sure anymore. He made, like, a new Twitch account because his old one got removed, and some people argued, okay, the only reason Twitch ever does that is if it turns out you're too young to have a Twitch account and you lied about something. I don't know. But he's never been, forthcoming about it. It'll always remain a mystery, I'm afraid. 16 SCVs are dying, though, to those zealots. And that is not a mystery at all. Loads of damage being done. Cheeky little zealot run by. Suddenly comes in. It would be mind-blowing, by the way, if that... Ultimately, like, if we ever learned a reason, if it turns out that Maxpax has been too young when he first started competing, so for most tournaments, there is a minimum age. If he actually, when he first started competing, was not yet 16 years old, that would be mind-blowing. Anyway. Lots of damage being done, and you can see here the unit losses across the board have been very even. Economically speaking, though, and that's the real strength of Protoss, of course, Maxpax does have more workers. Then again, his economy is not as big as you would expect it to be. He does have the eco lead, yes. Clem, though, now securing his own 4th base too. Maxpax only just now securing his 5th. Usually in this matchup, Protoss does have a base up. Feedback right there onto one of the ghosts. Archons decide to get morphed in again, well, just to keep those High Templar around for a little bit. Storm into a cheeky little feedback onto this bad boy right over here. Storm across the little crevice. Why not? Storms for everyone! Oh, wait, no, that's AK-47s and generals. Psionic storms for everyone! Maybe Maxpax is just being very nice. May I have some better shoes? Oof. It's a bit of a mess. Do we have enough, though, for Maxpax to just be able to break through all of this? Like, his army is just so freaking big, man. There's a bunch of Vikings up in the air. They're slowly working through all of the Colossi. Clem tries to get underneath. Now that the splash damage of the Protoss army is no more, though, Marine Marauder Medevac looks way, way better. Reinforcing group of Zealots arrived just at the perfect moment. 20 SCVs also did end up going down, and that may just justify this attack. Despite all the losses, we're back up to 85 probes. We're making that transition to the mass economic style. And that is going to be a bit of a frustration for Clem. He will send out a medevac with a bunch of units inside of it, but this 5th base is now up and running for a while already. Still, though, he can also remake his own workers. He is going to be able to finish up 2-2, which is a big power spike. What about this little marine drop? I think we should hunt down the probes. Yeah, that's what he's hunting for right now. A couple of the photon cannons go down, but obviously that's very recoverable. At the very least, though, this has alleviated some of the pressure from the Protoss player off of his back. +3 fires up. Attack upgrade first. Liberator production has also begun. Liberators, of course, really the correct weapon of choice. Difficult to afford, though, before, well, really like 4 base economy. Preferably, you'll get even more than that, just because they're so freaking expensive and you need a lot of infrastructure to be able to pull it off. Prism goes back around the side yet again. Clem did see it. Viking runs on over in this direction too. But we do have a bit of a warp in now. Awkward moment. Maxpax is maxed out. He wanted to probably warp in like 7 zealots. Could only afford to get 1. Storm over here though on the ramp yet again. Still lasting. Man, they last so freaking long. EMPs are big. Storm for zoning. I feel like Terrans are already doing way better, though, dealing with Storm compared to what they were doing a week or so ago. Like in some of the very first casts that I did on the new patch, they were just dancing in it. It could certainly be one of those things where over time they will just get way more confident. Because the damage is noticeably less. This is a really nice engagement here for Clem. Yeah. There's another High Templar coming in around the site. But now you can actually chase like that more confidently, right? Normally, at least in the past, when you chase like that and you get stormed, you would be in a world of trouble. But now you can actually chase more aggressively without really feeling too urged. So I think, yeah, too much of an urge to like back up. So I think that's pretty good. 5th Command Center coming up. Personal cloaking for the Ghost is done. +1 arrow weapons here. I would love to see a fusion core about right now here as well for Clem. Maybe when he's maxed out yet again, but I feel like that's the next thing we do. Oh, he didn't even have barracks 6, 7, and 8 yet. Wait, what? Oh, interesting. Okay, we were still just on 5 Rex. Not really what I expected. Dark Shrine, though, comes up here for Max, who isn't too rich this game, at least comparatively. Maybe we should get rid of these rocks. Like, these rocks are well integrated into the map, but I feel like neither player really likes them. New expansion in the far bottom right, of course, for Maxpax is going to be real nice. Clem hasn't been looking around that side of the map. There's also a rich gas geyser, giving him a lot more. There's the fusion core, though, for Clem. Mostly for the medevac energy regen. Also, though, for the Liberator ranged upgrade. Both of those upgrades are sick. He does have 12 medevacs, by the way, which is kind of a lot. Yeah, now he's really been on top of his storms. Really on top of the Ghost production. Keep in mind that Ghosts are now 2 supply rather than the 3 that they used to be over the last year. So these bad boys, they have 25 additional HP. They're 2 supply rather than 3. But they do have the light tag, meaning that units like, for example, the Colossus that deal bonus damage against light will technically be stronger against them. But the HP change mostly makes up for it. Storm goes down. Command Center production, though, for Clem has begun now. He wants to go into that mass CC style. We have a flank being set up right now for the young Frenchman. Does he have enough? We also have a flank upon a flank, though, with more and more storms waiting on the sides. Maybe Maxpax has been pushed into a corner. Is there enough to fight his way out? I think Clem just took about the perfect engagement. Setting up the snipes. Half of his army split off, feigning weakness, backing up to the planetary fortress. And now, he may very well be able to strike while the iron is hot. There are, however, 16 gateways. Compare that to the 8 barracks that we have for Clem. Maxpax is going to be able to very quickly reinforce this. He's already got triple robo, quickly reproducing 3 Colossus at once. A load of bases as well. New expansion over here in the bottom right does get found. He knows about the expansion north of the base that he's currently attacking. Zealot run by here just to try and buy as much time as possible. Maxpax really wants to get some production cycles out of his robo facilities primarily. Recall on over here towards the bottom right as well with some additional Zealots. A bit of an awkward recall, if I'm being honest with you. One of the robo facilities does get spotted. Vikings up in the air, immediately snipe the the Colossus that just came out of it. And Clem, doing Clem things, may have just found the perfect solution. I think this may have been the best game that I've seen Clem play on the new patch so far. Showing us that, yes, Terran is viable. Just play like Clem. Duh. Are you stupid? Just play like Clem. Just, you know, micro better. Macro better. Have better timing attacks. Get your upgrades at the correct moment. Beautiful game of StarCraft right here. Yeah, all those mistakes you make, stop making those. It's so obvious. Life advice right there with Clem. Have you considered not being bad? GG. Game number 3. We find ourselves on the Celestial Enclave. Actually, that doesn't seem right. We find ourselves on the map Celestial Enclave. Is it getting old yet? Is it getting annoying? Look, with a map name like that, I have to do it. It sounds very angelic to me. The Celestial Enclave. It's kind of beautiful, though. And I would imagine it is certainly Protoss territory. Clem is the intruder. It's just like that Wings of Liberty mission where James Raynor is trying to get a little bit of that breath of life, the breath of creation. He's like, howdy, y'all. Just give me a little bit of that stuff. And the Protoss is like, yo, actually, that's the breath of our gods. What are you doing? Get out of here, Terran. It's like, no. Let me just get a little bit of my Terrazine, okay? I'll be out before you notice. Getting similar vibes right here on the Celestial Enclave. Clearly something that the Protoss should control. Either way, it's going to be Blink yet again. This is the map with the in-base expansion, with the skinny little pathway over here that only can be accessed by workers. Just like Clem actually just showcased, actually. Look at that. Let me just back up for a second. I quite like it whenever we see Terran players use that. Look. So rather than taking the... So this is neat, right? If you wanted to leave through the front door, that would be 2 adepts sniping the SCV. So Clem just uses the back door of his base. Well, I don't know where... No! Where are you going, man? This was supposed to be the perfect example. Are you dumb? Okay, the award for the dumbest SCV ever goes to that guy. Alright, there's another one. Wait, there's a rally point problem. Oh! He walled himself in. Yes, the SCVs are trying to get down to the low ground. It's a rally point down to the low ground. But since the depots were up, they took the next viable path. Alright, maybe they're not that dumb. They're just following their programming. Can computers ever be dumb? Blink is going to be done, though, very soon. Yeah, I guess SCVs have a guy inside of them, right? In all the artwork, they're just, like, smoking cigarettes and all the rest of it. They're having a good time. Woohoo! Overtime! In the rear with the gear. Still don't know what that means. Well, I do think I know what it means, but I don't know if I want to know what it means. Widowmine drop was attempted. Likewise, a depth shade buy has been attempted, but both players pushing it all away. Prism coming in though for Max. He is on 4 gateways. Okay, we're going for a good old 4 gate. Maybe it's because of this in-base expansion, yeah. He's got a lot of terrain over here where he can put in some work. And this is a problem right now. Clem not anticipating the warp-ins in the pocket expansion may have just created a bit of a problem for himself. 4 gate 2 base is very uncommon these days. Like, we see it every once in a while at the highest level. But Maxpax, well, he used to do this as like his go-to build order all the time. He kind of ruined it for himself a little bit. Look at him feigning that he was going to leave. Warps in another 4 stalkers. He kind of ruined it himself a little bit because he played it so frequently that he effectively trained Terran players like Clem to be stupidly good against it. But maybe on maps with in-base expos like this that are quite easily accessible, it is once more a viable strat. These rocks over here, though, are annoying. Yeah. If they weren't there, this would be pretty much unstoppable, but now these stalkers have to take the very long road around. 4 more stalkers, though. Obviously, they can all fit in the prism. I think you stay over here. You don't? You're gonna go at the front? Oh, okay. Templar Archives has not yet been put down, but there is a 3rd. We do also have a Liberator denying some of the mining, forcing a warp in right over there. Stalker's waiting. They're going to go around the main base here in just a moment. In the meantime, we have 1 Stalker, 3, yeah, over here, ready to sacrifice themselves. Another warp in. Is there enough for Maxpax to just straight up win? Aggressive blink forward. Siege tank is gone. Medevac is gone. Lovely work right here again by our Protoss. Another Viking bites the dust as well. This right over here is the moment that the Stalkers over here swing in motion as well. They're going to be able to harass the siege tank in the mineral line and potentially shut it down. SCVs are pulled from the natural expansion to try and clean all of this up. So far, the SCV losses have been kept to a minimum. But I think as long as the Prism is around, Maxpax is not going to go home. Bunker falls. He can start some of the pickup micro. Without any siege tanks, it's pretty much impossible for Terran to reliably defend. Lovely control here, obviously, right? Like, all of this is to be said that the micro here from Maxpax has been superb throughout this series. Soon Charge is going to be here. If he warps in Zealots right now, they're going to be very difficult to counter. And even though the SCV losses aren't that high yet, we're like 1 engagement away from it being a bit of a disaster. In the meantime, a 4th Nexus begins. Doing a lot of multitasking here at the same time. Robo production has also begun. 12 additional workers die. That now makes 20 in total. Not as bad as it could have been for Clem. But obviously way more than he wanted to have lost. And, well, the 3rd command center is going to make a rebuilding a little bit easier. Orbital command there, so we are going to get some mules out onto the battlefield. But he is getting this thing finished up right as Maxpax is about halfway done with his 4th. Widowmine over here, 2 of them not really achieving anything. Clem hoping to get some lucky hits there. A lot of these workers are still low in HP. Medevacs to try and heal some of them back up. I quite like that. Recall is going to be used, and even a Viking can't help out. We're still dancing, though, at the front. Now a bunch of Zealots are leading the literal charge. Robo Bay on the back of this. So, at the very least, there's not going to be Psystorm. But honestly, if it's up to Maxpax, I think he's planning on winning this game right about right now. Prism is going back around into the main base. Force Field, Immortals are here. Zealots are going to be charging yet again. GG. Clem decides to rip off the band-aid. Next up, White Rabbit. Match point right here for Maxpax. Matchpacks. Max point. Maxed out packs. Isn't there an IKEA closet called Pax? P-A-X. IKEA. Hold up, let me Google it. Yes! The thing I keep my clothes in real life, is also called a Pax from IKEA. I am maxed out in real life. When we first moved in here together, we had to get a wardrobe, right? And we share one of them. And it has like 5 doors. Now, young and naive as I was, originally the idea was that the 2 on the left were going to be mine. And then the 2 on the right were going to be hers. The one in the middle, that one was supposed to be shared. Now, you don't have to think for very long. What happened to the one in the middle? I now have 2 out of 5, which is still pretty good. You know, I don't think that's too bad. The middle one, though, it does have a couple of shared things in there. But most of it is not. Twilight Council opener yet again right here for Max. No surprise there. Command center up on the high ground right here for Clem, because obviously he had to delay all of this a little while. That's one of the problems you run into when you go for that engineering way block. It's one of those things, right? With the engineering way block, yeah, you delay the expansion from the opponent. Maxpax forced to take it over at this third base location. But you also end up delaying your own expansion, because obviously you invest resources into the engineering bay. Now when you cancel it, you get most of it back. But it still ends up delaying your own command center. And now you have to make the orbital command inside of the main base too. You have to make the flight of shame down to the low ground, which is another few seconds. It adds up. Oh. Apparently we're going to fly it to the low ground first and then make an orbital command. I guess it's because we're already rallying SCVs. Fair enough. Alright. Blink coming up right here for Maxpax. I was hoping maybe if we're gonna... I don't know. When we first saw the patch notes, I was hoping maybe Stargate openers would once more become a option. But it's been Twilight Council every game. And it's been Stargate opener almost every game against Zerg. We've seen a little bit of Twilight Council play against Zerg. From the likes of, for example, Hero. Zaun actually also doing some fun builds with the Twilight Council. But Twilight Council against Terran has been the absolute norm for years and years and years. Cheeky little Widowmine drop, though, is going to be attempted right over here. Oh, probe. Dude, shield battery is real nice, isn't it? Jeez Louise, that was a really good probe. In the meantime, we're dancing as well on the other side. Maxpax going for an attack for all the marbles. Marine over here also ended up dying. A lot of lost mining time, though, over at the third base. And now with the shield battery gone, yeah, this is all hurting quite a bit. Picking up the low HP Marine, bringing it back around, forcing the retargeting from the Stalkers onto the Medevac. Plenty of blinks available, though. And I think that'll be the end for these Marines. They're trying their best. They're like, yo, we want to kill you. Why do you run away? Stop. Resist. Okay, well, that'll be the end for them. Cheeky little Liberator going around. Met by one Stalker. It's decided that it's had enough. Okay. Now, Clem already had some success in that second game with siege tank pushes early on. This is a very different flavor of it, but it's still something that can put in some work. Big tech investment right here for Maxpax. This is the problem, though, right? When you make a move out like this as a Terran player, you're also leaving your main base open and vulnerable. And this is going to be painful, man. So many dead SCVs. What about this fight at the front? Is it justified? Recall on the Prism is going to bring those Stalkers back home again for defense duty as well. Still, though, the fact that the orbital command... Or, sorry, the fact that the Nexus was built over at the third base is still causing problems right here for Max. His units are very split up. His tech has been very split up, too. No high ground over here or anything to work with, and I think Clem is still making the best of this scenario, even adding in a bunker right now too. Probes decide to help out in this engagement. Landed Viking deals so much freaking damage as well to those mechanical units. And even though we just saw a lot of SCVs going down, we see even more probes falling right here. Some lovely pickup micro yet again right here for Maxpax, but I don't know if it matters. Now, the micro can be good, but you still need the numbers. And at this point, the numbers are heavily in favor of our Terran player. This Nexus is going to go down, and with it, the chances of the Protoss are going to disappear. And that means it all comes down to this. Final match of this best of 5 series takes place on Mothership. This is our latest and greatest 3-player map. Much better than Last Fantasy, if you were to ask me. There's another base over here in the far top left. Another map, by the way, much like the Celestial Enclave. That is definitely Protoss territory. I mean, if you look at the minimap, it's very clearly the shape of a mothership. The map's name is Mothership as well. Why is there a Terran here again, ready to steal the breath of creation? Does that mean that Maxpax is a Tal'Darim? Do I understand StarCraft lore? Not really. But I like to pretend that I do. Well, well, well. I was just talking about it. After opening up Twilight Council 4 games out of 4, we now go for a good old Oracle. Alright. This map is really cool. I really like it. So look, I'm a sucker for lore in general, I guess. I just kind of like it when there's stories to stuff. And while I'm not an expert on StarCraft lore by any stretch, good Hellion Scout, by the way. He is going to see, I think, the Stargate in just a moment. Yeah, he sees it now. Oracle is therefore going to be prepared, at least for a little bit, right? Terran should be expecting it here in just a moment. Anyways, I like it whenever you have a little bit of, like, it's very basic lore, but calling the map Mothership, making it look like a Mothership, I like it. It's fun. Widowmine? Making it difficult for the Oracle to get close. Oracle at this point, though, fully out of energy. Energy recharge is nice and all, but you do have to use it. Okay. If you have a Protoss versus Protoss on Mothership, and both players make a Mothership, does that mean you have 3 Motherships? Or 2? Or 1? It's the Mothership paradox. It would be sick, though, if we had a map called Leviathan, with a Zerg Leviathan theme. Or a map called, I don't know, Battle Cruiser LE. That looks like a it'd be kind of fun, right? Maybe it'd be difficult to balance, though. The nice thing about all of these Protoss units is that they're usually, at least the Mothership, right? It's usually very easy to mirror all of these little arms. I guess it's also only recently become a viable choice with, well, maps once more being allowed to have more than 2 spawn locations. Once upon a time in the Team Liquid map contest, it was a rule that you could only have 2. They tried doing 4, which makes a lot of sense, but then, well, 4 is just difficult to pull off, especially for Protoss builds. 4 just is very difficult for the 12-worker start that we have these days, and it just creates some balance implications that are not very fun. But I think 3 is a pretty good middle ground. Although it always feels a little bit weird, right? A 3-player map for 1v1. Look at this! Sorry, I know there's an hallucination going in, but what in the world is this right over here? That is a lovely bit of decoration. Is this official, or did somebody make this? The map makers are some of the most creative people out there. Dude, this is sick. I love that. It's creating a Colossus. Sorry, there's a battle happening right next to this. If it could snipe Stimpack, that would be huge. Honestly, any damage dealt right here without losing Stalkers is big. Okay. I think you can blink those Stalkers one at a time, easy peasy. Obviously, we have that Oracle here to provide the high ground vision. This looks extremely high quality, though. It has to be something that Blizzard made, right? Maybe not. I don't know. Honestly, very beautiful decorations on this map. I haven't really looked around the maps very much. Love the little scouts right over there. Not a unit you can play in StarCraft 2 in 1v1, but... Medevac drop. Heads on over across. Ooh, it does end up falling right next to the Phoenix manufacturing plant. We do have a few of the Marines still available. They're going to try and deal whatever damage they can. But Clem is already going in for a big attack. From the bottom right, straight up north. Sorry, I got to check one more side of the map. What is this one making? Also Phoenixes. What? It's to the right of the main bases. Phoenix? Why is it Phoenix, Colossus? Maybe there's more somewhere else. I feel like usually these things are quite well mirrored. Unless I'm stupid, I'm looking at the wrong manufacturing plant. Probably not. Alright, let's follow the game along a little bit. Both players so far, mostly just testing the waters, right? A little bit of damage dealt on both sides of the map. Main problem, yet again right here for Terran, is that right when the 4th base begins, the 3rd base is about to finish. You're always finding yourself a full expansion behind as Terran these days. Storm is nearly done. So for now, Clem has a real potential, or some real potential to get damage down, but we're seconds away from that Size Storm research. High Templar, where are they? There's 4 of them available, and they are indeed now floating on over in this direction. If Maxpax can keep the 4th base alive, and that may be a big if, that would be big. Storm? Storm? Yeah, Storm pretty good. Storm, 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 Storm. We storm everything. High Templar overextended the Storm, make them Archons. I thought that base was going to be dead, but luckily right here for Max, he does keep it going. Unfortunately right there for Clem. Yeah, I do think Protoss may be a little bit overtuned, guys. The more I think about it, obviously the margins are small. But my god, did it look like Clem had the perfect opportunity right there to kill the base. Maxpax though comes in, blankets the whole area. Little bit of a Size Storm, now we go for a counterattack. Clem dealing a bunch of damage as well on the other side of the map, but his natural expansion is in a world of trouble, and those Archons, man, that's the High Templar, right? Those are the bad boys who just kept that base alive. Prism does take a bit of a beating, but it stays alive just barely. Those Archons are destroying 20 and 13 kills collectively. That's too much damage, I think. 10 probes going down as well in the meantime. That's nice. But that is not going to be good enough. Archons are so good at clumped up units. And the speed at which they come out with that Templar Archives. Whew. G to the G gets called. Just like that, it is indeed Maxpax who obtains the victory 3-1 over Clem. Honestly, a phenomenal series. Really well executed by Maxpax across the board. But looking at the new patch games for about 2 weeks now, I think across the board, the punishment that you get as a Terran player and also as a Zerg player, but obviously we didn't have that in this matchup. When you make one little misstep with Terran, it feels like you're in so much trouble. But when you make a misstep with Protoss, you have quite a few opportunities to climb back into the game. And that's not to take anything away from Maxpax's performance in this particular match. He did a great job, but obviously he's dealing with the tools that he's been given. But man, I can understand where Clem is coming from. We can, yeah, definitely see some of the frustration here and the reason as to why that's the case.